For years, the nation of Israel was a house divided, not just by land, but in its very heart. They spoke the name of the Lord, but their hands were building altars to Baal, a false god they believed could bring them rain, bumper crops, and power. At the head of this spiritual confusion were King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. They didn't just tolerate Baal worship, they promoted it, silencing anyone who dared to speak for the one true God. And as a result, the land itself seemed to weep. The vibrant green turned to dusty brown. The skies, once generous with rain, became a cruel, cloudless blue. The earth cracked open, thirsty and barren. 3 long, agonizing years crawled by without a single drop of rain. The people suffered, the animals grew weak, and hope dwindled with each sunrise. Then, one day, a figure emerged from the wilderness. His name was Elijah. He wasn't adorned in royal robes or backed by a powerful army. He was a simple man, clothed in rugged garments, but he carried an authority that kings could only dream of. When Elijah spoke, it was as if the very air stood still to listen. He walked straight into the lion's den, right before King Ahab himself. His message was direct, uncompromising. "Gather all of Israel to Mount Carmel," he commanded, "and bring the prophets of Baal, 450 of them." Something in Elijah's voice compelled the king, and he obeyed. Soon, the slopes of Mount Carmel were teeming with people. A sea of faces, prophets, soldiers, farmers, families, all gathered, their eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity, fear, and a desperate longing for an answer. The air was thick with tension. Elijah stepped into the center of the crowd, and a hush fell over them. His voice, though strong, was laced with a deep sorrow for his people. "How long will you waver between 2 opinions?" he asked, his gaze sweeping across the silent assembly. "If the Lord is God, then follow him. But if Baal is God, then follow him." The silence was deafening. No one dared to answer. Their guilt and confusion held them captive. Elijah broke the silence. "I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left, but Baal has 450 prophets. So let's make this clear for everyone. Bring 2 bulls. Let the prophets of Baal choose one for themselves. Let them cut it into pieces and lay it on the wood of their altar, but set no fire to it. I will prepare the other bull and lay it on the wood of my altar, and I will set no fire to it." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Then he delivered the ultimate challenge. "You call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord. The God who answers by fire, he is God." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. This was a test they could understand. A tangible, undeniable demonstration of power. The people had made their decision. "What you have said is good," they replied. So, the prophets of Baal began. They carefully selected their bull, prepared their altar, and laid the sacrifice upon it. From morning until noon, their voices rose in a chaotic chorus. "O Baal, answer us! O Baal, hear our prayer!" They danced wildly around the altar, a frantic, desperate ritual. They shouted, they leaped, they pleaded, but the sky remained silent. The air was still. There was no sound, no movement, no spark of fire. Hours dragged on. As the sun reached its highest point, Elijah couldn't resist a moment of stark, divine sarcasm. "Shout louder," he mocked. "Surely he is a god. Perhaps he's deep in thought, or maybe he's busy, or traveling. Or perhaps he's sleeping and must be awakened." Goaded by his words, the prophets of Baal redoubled their efforts. Their cries became shrieks of desperation. In a gruesome display of devotion, they began to cut themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until blood streamed down their bodies. Their voices grew hoarse, their bodies weary. They continued their frenzied prayer until the time of the evening sacrifice. But still, there was nothing. No voice, no answer, no fire. Their God was silent. Their God was powerless. Their God was nothing. Then, it was Elijah's turn. He calmly walked to the center of the attention. "Come here to me," he said to the people. They drew closer, their eyes now fixed on him. He didn't build a new, flashy altar. Instead, he began to repair the altar of the Lord, which had been torn down and neglected. He took 12 stones, one for each of the tribes of Israel. A powerful visual reminder of their identity and their covenant with God. He arranged the wood on the altar, cut the bull into pieces, and laid it on the wood. And then, he did something that seemed completely counterintuitive. He did something that defied all logic. "Fill 4 large jars with water, and pour it on the offering and on the wood," he commanded. They obeyed. The water cascaded over the sacrifice, soaking the wood and stones. "Do it again," Elijah said. They poured another 4 jars. "Do it a 3rd time," he insisted. They poured yet again, until the water had not only drenched the entire altar, but also filled the trench he had dug around it. It was a waterlogged mess. Humanly speaking, nothing could possibly burn now. With the stage set, Elijah stepped back. The mountain was still. The world seemed to hold its breath. He looked up to heaven and he prayed. He didn't shout. He didn't cut himself. He didn't perform a frantic dance. His prayer was simple, direct, and filled with faith. "Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel," he said, his voice clear and steady. "Let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again." And in that instant, it happened. A blinding flash, fire fell from heaven. Not a small spark, but a torrent of divine flame. It didn't just consume the sacrifice, it devoured the wood. It licked up the 12 stones of the altar. It burned the very soil beneath it. It even vaporized all the water in the trench. There was nothing left but scorched earth and the undeniable proof of God's power. The people, witnessing this terrifying and glorious display, fell on their faces. A single, unified cry rose from the crowd, a wave of realization and repentance. "The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God." The truth, once hidden, was now blindingly clear. The false gods were silent, but the living God had answered with fire. And soon after, a small cloud appeared on the horizon, the size of a man's hand. The sky, which had been a merciless blue for 3.5 years, grew dark with clouds. The wind began to rise, carrying the scent of moisture. And then, the rain came. A heavy, life-giving downpour that washed the land clean. The drought was over. The silence was broken. And in the thunder and the rain, the people remembered who God truly was. Our world today is a lot like Mount Carmel. It's filled with voices, all competing for our attention, for our worship. They promise happiness, success, and power. They are the Baals of our time. But when the test comes, when the fire is called for, they remain silent. Fire doesn't fall for lies, it falls for faith. And the God who answered Elijah with fire on that mountain is the same God who answers us today. He is not a distant thought, a sleeping deity, or an empty promise. He is the living God, and He is still in the business of turning hearts back to Himself. Thank you for watching.